First contact reversed. The Meridian, pride of the Galactic survey fleet, dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of an unremarkable solar system. Captain Zinra adjusted her ceremonial collar, mandibles clicking with anticipation. After centuries of exploration, first contact protocols had become routine for the Arcanian people. This system, however, would prove anything but routine. Life signs confirmed on the third planet, Captain. First Officer Teklor reported, his scales shimming with excitement. Atmospheric composition and electromagnetic emissions suggest an early industrial civilization. Recommended contact classification, Category 3. Zinra nodded, familiar with the protocols for encountering newly emergent species. Category 3 meant they had achieved basic spaceflight, but hadn't yet developed FTL travel. Such species required careful handling. Too much exposure to advanced technology could devastate their cultural development. Standard observation formation, she ordered. Activate stealth systems and... Captain. The sensor operator's voice cracked with alarm. Multiple objects approaching at relativistic speeds. Before Zinra could respond, a voice filled the bridge. Warm, professional, and speaking perfect Arcanian. Galactic Survey Vessel Meridian, this is Earth Defense Command. Please maintain your current position. Your stealth systems are quite impressive, but rather outdated by our standards. A diplomatic team will arrive shortly to facilitate proper introductions. Stunned silence fell across the bridge. Zinra's antennae twitched rapidly, processing the impossible. Not only had they been detected despite their most advanced stealth technology, but these supposedly primitive humans were speaking their language and seemed completely unsurprised by their arrival. A shimmer of light materialized in the center of the bridge, resolving into a human figure. The woman appeared to be in her middle years, wearing a simple white uniform with no visible technology. She smiled warmly at the shocked crew. I'm Ambassador Elena Chen. On behalf of humanity, welcome to Sol System. She gestured casually, and a holographic display appeared around them, showing thousands of structures and vessels that had been completely invisible to their sensors. We apologize for maintaining this illusion of a less advanced civilization, but we find it helps reduce anxiety among emerging spacefaring species if they believe they're making first contact rather than meeting their elders. Elders? Zinra managed to ask, her translator struggling with the concept. That's impossible. The Arcanians have been exploring space for over 10,000 years. We are among the oldest known species in the galaxy. Ambassador Chen's smile turned slightly sad. 10,000 years is indeed impressive, Captain, but humanity achieved faster than light travel over 8 million years ago. We were there when the first stars of this galactic arm were born. We watched your ancestors take their first steps onto land. The holographic display shifted, showing historical records that made Zinra's head spin. Images of human vessels among ancient stars, of megastructures that predated her civilization's earliest writings, of human observers watching key moments in countless species development. But why hide? First Officer Teklor asked, his scientific curiosity overcoming his shock. Why let younger species believe they were alone? Because true growth requires independence, Elena explained. We learned long ago that obvious interference, however well-intentioned, tends to stunt a species' development. They become dependent on their gods rather than finding their own path. So we chose to watch, to guide subtly when necessary, and to let each new civilization believe they were among the first to reach for the stars. A new alarm sounded from the sensor station. Multiple vessels decloaking, Captain. They're everywhere. A holographic display expanded, revealing thousands of human ships and stations that had been invisible to their sensors. Some seemed to bend space itself around them. Others appeared to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. The level of technology on display made their own advanced vessels look like primitive wooden boats in comparison. Your arrival marks a turning point, Elena continued. We've detected a threat approaching the galaxy, something that will require all of us working together to face. The time has come for humanity to step out of the shadows. The younger races are ready now, ready to learn that they're not alone, and ready to learn that their ancient myths about godlike beings watching from the stars weren't entirely fictional. Zinra looked at her crew, seeing her own mix of awe and uncertainty reflected in their expressions. Everything they thought they knew about their place in the galaxy had just been upended. Yet there was something comforting in the humans' warm demeanor, in the careful way they had revealed themselves. "What happens now?" she asked. "Now," Elena replied, "we begin the real first contact. Not between humanity and the Arcanians, but between all the younger races and the truth about their cosmic heritage. Your people have proven themselves worthy of this knowledge, Captain. Will you help us share it with the others?" As Zinra looked at the vast expanse of human civilization revealed around them, she realized this wasn't the end of their exploration mission. It was just the beginning of a much greater journey. The Great Revelation. 2 weeks after the Meridian's historic encounter, the Grand Council chamber of the Galactic Concordat was in chaos. Representatives from over 300 species crowded the ancient hall on Centauri Prime, their voices rising in a cacophony of disbelief and wonder. The Arcanian delegation sat at the center, Captain Zinra among them, watching as millennia of assumed history crumbled. Ambassador Elena Chen stood calmly at the speaker's podium, her holographic image projected clearly to every corner of the vast chamber. Behind her, a massive display showed evidence that left no room for doubt. Humanity's fingerprints on the galaxy's development, preserved in records that predated most species' written histories. "We understand this is difficult to accept," Elena said, her voice cutting through the noise. "For many of you, humanity was nothing more than a primitive species on a backwater world. Some of you had plans to discover us within the next century. Instead, you're learning that we've been present at every major milestone in your civilization's development." The Volnar ambassador, his crystalline form pulsing with agitation, rose to speak. "You claim to have shepherded our development, yet you let wars rage, allowed planets to die. How do you justify such an action?" Elena's expression softened. "Imagine raising a child," she replied. "Would you prevent them from ever falling, from making mistakes, from learning the consequences of their actions? Growth requires struggle. We intervened only when a species risked extinction or when conflicts threatened to spread beyond containment." She gestured, and the display shifted to show a graveyard of ancient warships floating in deep space. The hive wars of the Centaurian sector, 3,000 years ago. You believe they ended because of diplomatic breakthroughs. In reality, we prevented both sides from deploying planet-killer weapons, giving you time to find peace on your own terms. More images flowed across the screen. Mysterious shield technologies that had protected planets from solar flares, unexplained technological leaps that had saved species from collapse, supposedly natural phenomena that had prevented catastrophic wars. In each case, humanity's hidden hand was revealed. "But now," Elena continued, "we face a threat that requires us to step forward. Our long-range sensors have detected something approaching from intergalactic space, something that has done this before." The display changed again, showing a massive void between galaxies, empty space except for the faintest trace of wreckage, the remains of civilizations scattered across millions of light years. "We've found evidence of this entity's passage through 27 galaxies," Elena explained, her voice grave. "In each case, all advanced life was simply erased. No battles, no desperate last stands, just empty worlds and scattered debris. It will reach our galaxy within 50 years. The chamber erupted again, fear replacing confusion. Captain Zinra watched as species that had been enemies for generations turned to each other with shared terror in their eyes. "This is why we reveal ourselves now." Elena's voice rose above the chaos. "Humanity has advanced far beyond what you see here, but even we cannot face this threat alone. We need your perspectives, your creativity, your unique ways of viewing the universe. We've guided your development not to control you, but to ensure you would be ready for this moment." She paused, looking around the chamber. Each of your species has achieved something remarkable. You've reached the stars. You've overcome planetary challenges, unified your peoples, built technologies that would astound your ancestors. Now we ask you to take the next step, to join us not as subjects or subordinates, but as true partners in defending all life in this galaxy. The Mechanoid Collective's representative, a shimmering cloud of nanomechanes, formed into a humanoid shape. You possess technology that violates our understanding of physics. How can we possibly contribute meaningfully to this fight? Elena smiled. Because you see things we don't. The Mechanoid's quantum processing arrays operate on principles we never conceived. The Volnar crystalline computing matrices store data more efficiently than our best systems. The Arcanian bioengineering techniques are elegant solutions we overlooked. You've all found unique paths up the mountain of progress, and each path offers a different view of the summit. She waved her hand, and the chamber's center filled with a hologram of the galaxy, dots of light representing each civilization. Apart, we are vulnerable. Together, the lights began to connect, forming a vast network of interlinked stars. Together we can be something new, something greater than the sum of our parts. Humanity is not here to command, but to coordinate, to help unite our species' strengths before it's too late. Captain Zinra found herself standing, her voice carrying clearly across the chamber. The Arcanians stand with humanity. We've seen their power. They could have conquered us millennia ago. Instead, they chose to nurture, to guide, to prepare us for this moment. I believe them. One by one, other representatives stood. The Volnar, their ancient grudges forgotten in the face of a greater challenge. The Mechanoids, their logical matrices calculating the obvious benefits of cooperation. Species that had never agreed on anything found themselves united in purpose. As Elena watched the gathering support, she sent a private message to the human fleet waiting in hyperspace. Phase 1 complete. The galaxy is awakening. Now the real work begins. The great revelation was just the beginning. The galaxy was about to change forever, and every species, young and old, would need to evolve to survive what was coming. Legacy of the Ancients. Deep within Earth's quantum archive, Captain Zinra stood in awe before a window that seemed to look back through time itself. The temporal observation chamber was just one of countless wonders she'd witnessed since humanity had begun sharing their true technological capabilities. What you're seeing happened 9 million years ago, Dr. Marcus Jung explained, his weathered face reflected in the quantum glass. This was the moment humanity made its greatest choice. The scene showed a younger Earth, its continents differently arranged, its cities gleaming with technology that still surpassed anything the Galactic Concordat could produce. Massive ships filled the skies, and orbital rings circled the planet like halos. We had already spread throughout this arm of the galaxy, Marcus continued. We'd mastered faster than light travel, conquered death through consciousness transfer, learned to manipulate the fundamental forces of the universe. And we were utterly, profoundly alone. The view shifted, showing human exploration vessels encountering world after world. Some barren, some teeming with primitive life, but none bearing the signs of intelligent civilization. Zinra watched as human scientists detected the first microscopic ancestors of her own species. The solitude nearly broke us, Marcus said softly. Some advocated for seeding worlds with engineered life, accelerating evolution to create peers. Others wanted to retreat into virtual realms, abandoning physical existence entirely. The debates nearly led to civil war. The scene changed again, showing a massive vessel emerging from what appeared to be another dimension entirely. Then we detected the first signs of the entity. We found the ruins it left in the Andromeda galaxy, evidence of civilizations it had eliminated. We realized why we were alone. We weren't the first to evolve. We were simply the first to survive. Zinra's antennae quivered. You mean? Yes, there were others before us, countless species that achieved spacefaring capability. The entity found them all, consumed them, and moved on. We only survived because we evolved in the brief window between its previous visit to our galaxy and its next approach. The temporal window showed a grand council chamber, not unlike the one where humanity had revealed itself weeks ago. But this one was filled entirely with humans, their fashion and appearance subtly different from their modern descendants. This was the Council of Eternal Night, Marcus explained, where humanity chose its path forward. We would use our head start, our unique window of opportunity, to prepare the galaxy for the entity's return. Instead of uplifting species directly, we would guide them, protect them, let them develop naturally while ensuring they didn't destroy themselves before reaching maturity. The view shifted through centuries, showing human observers subtly influencing countless civilizations. They deflected asteroids, neutralized supervolcanoes, and occasionally prevented nuclear holocausts, all while remaining hidden from the species they protected. We built monitoring stations in dark matter halos, constructed dimensional havens where we could observe without interfering, and developed technology that could seamlessly integrate with the natural evolution of worlds. We became the galaxy's gardeners, tending to sapient species like precious flowers, each unique and valuable in its own way. Zinra watched as the temporal window showed the rise of her own civilization. She saw human vessels, cloaked from detection, watching as her ancestors built their first cities, launched their first satellites, and achieved their first faster-than-light jump. "But why reveal yourselves now?" she asked. "Surely you're powerful enough to face this entity alone." Marcus shook his head. "Power isn't the issue. We've had millions of years to prepare, to advance our technology beyond anything you could imagine. But we've learned that raw power isn't enough. The entity adapts, learns, consumes the knowledge and capabilities of every civilization it destroys. We need something it's never encountered before, which is unity." Marcus smiled. "True cooperation between different species, different ways of thinking, different approaches to understanding the universe. Every species we guided has developed unique insights, technologies, and abilities. Apart, we're all vulnerable. Together, combining humanity's ancient knowledge with the fresh perspectives and innovations of younger races, we might stand a chance." He waved his hand, and the temporal window shifted to show the present. Across the galaxy, human specialists were sharing technology with their younger allies while learning from their unique developments in return. The Volnar's crystalline computing merged with human quantum systems. Arcanian bioengineering enhanced human consciousness transfer technology. Mechanoid neural networks interfaced with human dimensional mathematics. "We've spent millions of years preparing the galaxy's species for this moment," Marcus said, "not to serve us, but to join us as equals in the greatest fight in our galaxy's history." The entity expects to find isolated civilizations it can easily consume. Instead, it will face a united galaxy, combining technologies and strategies it has never encountered before. The temporal window darkened, showing only the vast void between galaxies, where something massive and darker than space itself was moving, approaching, hungry for new civilizations to consume. The question now, Marcus turned to Zinra, is whether we can overcome our differences and truly unite before it arrives. Humanity has done its part in preparing the galaxy. Now it's up to all of us, together, to save it. Zinra stared at the approaching darkness, understanding at last the true weight of her role as liaison between humanity and the younger races. They had 50 years to unite a galaxy, to overcome millennia of separate development and conflicts, to forge an alliance unlike anything the universe had ever seen. The greatest test in galactic history was approaching, and its outcome would depend not just on humanity's ancient power, but on the combined strength of every species they had helped nurture through the ages. The coming storm. The Arcturus Defense Station hung in space like a crystalline snowflake, its vast arms stretching across 10,000 kilometers. Built through the combined efforts of 12 species, it represented everything humanity had hoped for when they revealed themselves. Captain Zinra stood on the central observation deck, watching as ships of all shapes and sizes move through the practiced chaos of a combat drill. Impressive, isn't it? Alina Chen materialized beside her, no longer bothering with the pretense of using doors or transporters. 6 months ago, these species could barely cooperate on trade agreements. Now they're performing synchronized combat maneuvers. Below them, a swarm of mechanoid vessels flowed like liquid metal around the organic-looking ships of the Arcanian fleet. Volnar crystal ships refracted light in complex patterns, coordinating movements with human vessels that seemed to bend reality around them. The entity has accelerated its approach, Alina continued, her voice grave. Our deep space monitors detected crossing the void 40% faster than initial calculations suggested. We now have 30 years, not 50. Zinra's antennae twitched in alarm. That's not enough time. The integration protocols alone. A massive explosion cut her off, rocking the station. Red alert signals flashed across every surface as security barriers snapped into place. Training exercise Beta 7 has experienced a critical failure. An AI voice announced calmly. Containment protocols engage. Medical teams to Sector 12. They watched as a Volnar crystal ship, its lattice structure cracked and leaking energy, was quickly surrounded by emergency vessels. The damaged ship had collided with an Arcanian cruiser during a complex maneuver, both crews still struggling to anticipate each other's tactics. And that, Alina sighed, is why we're pushing so hard for true integration, not just cooperation. Each species has developed its own way of thinking, its own approach to space combat. The entity won't give us time to coordinate during battle. We need to move as one. The observation deck's doors slid open, admitting first speaker Vrax of the Mechanoid Collective. His nanite cloud formed into a roughly humanoid shape, though the mechanoids had long since abandoned any pretense of needing physical bodies. The neural interface trials are showing promise, Vrax's synthesized voice reported. By combining our distributed consciousness architecture with human quantum networking and Volnar crystalline storage, we've achieved a 93% reduction in tactical response time. Alina nodded. And the biological compatibility issues. The Arcanians' genetic modifications are holding. Organic brains can now interface with the network without rejection. Though the psychological effects of sharing consciousness across species barriers remain challenging. Zinra suppressed a shudder, remembering her own experience in the neural trials. The sensation of her consciousness touching minds so alien, yet somehow familiar, had been both terrifying and exhilarating. We're asking a lot, Alina acknowledged. Every species is being pushed far beyond their comfort zones. But the alternative? The main display activated, showing the entity's approach. It appeared as a vast darkness between the stars, a void that consumed light itself. Recent observations had revealed more detail about its nature. A collective consciousness of sorts, but one driven by an insatiable hunger to absorb new forms of life and knowledge. The entity adapts to every technology, every tactic it encounters, Alina explained. That's why isolated civilizations fall so quickly. But we're doing something it's never seen before, combining technologies and approaches in ways that even we can't fully predict. They watched as the damaged ships were towed to repair docks. Already, engineers from multiple species were swarming over them, combining their unique perspectives to not just repair the damage, but improve the original designs. Every failure teaches us something, Vrax observed. The collision occurred because Volnar ships rely on crystalline resonance patterns for coordination, while Arcanian vessels use biological quantum entanglement. Incompatible protocols, but now we'll develop something new, Zinra finished. A hybrid system that takes advantage of both approaches. Alina smiled. Exactly. This is why we guided species toward different technological paths. Not because one way was better than another, but because we needed multiple perspectives, multiple solutions to the same problems. The entity expects to face technologies it can analyze and counter. Instead, it will face combinations it could never predict. A new alert sounded. Another training exercise beginning. This time, the ships moved more cautiously, each crew more aware of their allies' capabilities and limitations. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. "We're recording more than battle tactics," Alina said softly. "Every interaction, every cultural exchange, every technological fusion is being preserved in quantum memory. Even if we fall, the next galaxy will know what we attempted here. They'll know that we faced the darkness not as separate species, but as a united force." The station's arms lit up as energy pulses simulated combat conditions. Ships of all designs wove between the blasts, protecting each other, compensating for weaknesses, creating patterns of defense that had never existed before. 30 years, Zinra mused, watching the deadly dance. 30 years to overcome millions of years of separate development, to unite technologies that were never meant to interact, to forge thousands of different species into a single fighting force. Humanity spent 8 million years preparing for this moment, Alina reminded her. Everything we did, every civilization we guided, every war we prevented, every species we helped nurture, was leading to this. We're not just fighting for survival now. We're fighting to prove that life itself, in all its diverse forms, is stronger together than apart. Above them, the exercise continued, each run showing marginally better coordination, marginally better understanding between species that had been strangers mere months ago. It wasn't perfect, but it was hope. And hope, against an enemy that had devoured entire galaxies, might be their greatest weapon of all. Guardians unveiled. The battle alert came without warning. Deep in the Carina sector, at the very edge of charted space, automated sensors detected the first probe of the entity's advance force. Within minutes, the carefully rehearsed response protocol snapped into action. Captain Zinra stood on the bridge of the Arcanian flagship Genesis, now enhanced with human quantum technology and Volmar crystal matrices. Through the neural interface, she felt the presence of her mixed-species crew. Arcanian, human, mechanoid, and others, their minds linked in carefully controlled harmony. Multiple dimensional rifts detected, her sensor officer reported, both verbally and through the shared consciousness network. Entity vessels emerging. Configuration unknown, no match to historical records. The enemy ships looked like twisted abstractions of space itself, their forms constantly shifting between states of matter and energy. They moved with an alien grace that defied normal physics, leaving trails of darkness in their wake. All ships, Battle Formation Delta, Zinra commanded. Around the Genesis, hundreds of vessels from 24 species moved as one, their crews linked through the new hybrid neural network. Human dimensional drives hummed in harmony with Volmar crystal resonators, while mechanoid computation clouds enhanced their tactical responses. Alina Chen's voice echoed through the network from her command post on Earth. "Remember your training. They'll try to analyze and adapt to our individual technologies. Don't give them time to focus on any single approach." The entity's ships struck first, launching waves of energy that seemed to corrupt space itself. But the defended ships were ready. Volnar crystal shields refracted the attack through dimensional spaces defined by human mathematics, while mechanoid countermeasures scrambled the enemy's targeting systems. Phase 1. Execute, Zinra ordered. The combined fleet split into predetermined groups, each utilizing different technological approaches. Arcanian bioships launched clouds of engineered microorganisms that consumed the entity's energy emissions. Human vessels phased between dimensions, striking from angles that shouldn't exist. Mechanoid swarms created quantum interference patterns that disrupted the enemy's cohesion. Through the neural network, Zinra felt the exhilaration of her crew mixed with the cold precision of the mechanoids and the ancient confidence of the human operators. They moved together with a synchronization that would have been impossible months ago, each species compensating for the other's weaknesses. "They're adapting," Alina warned. "Shifting tactics." The entity's ships began to change, their forms morphing to counter each attack. But this was exactly what they had trained for. Before the enemy could fully adapt to one approach, The Allied fleet would switch to another, combining technologies in ways that even their creators couldn't fully predict. Quantum resonance cascade, authorized, Zinra commanded. The Genesis hybrid drive core pulsed, sending waves of energy through the crystalline networks that connected the Allied ships. Human quantum technology merged with Volmar harmonic fields, creating interference patterns that the mechanoids instantly analyzed and adjusted. The combined effect caught several entity vessels in a cascade of dimensional fractures, tearing them apart. But the victory was short-lived. The remaining enemy ships quickly adapted, their forms shifting to absorb and redirect the attack. More rifts opened, disgorging reinforcements. All ships, execute Protocol Omega. Elena's voice rang through the network. Show them what true unity looks like. This was the moment they had trained for, the ultimate expression of their combined technologies. Every ship in the Allied fleet activated special systems that had been developed in secret, using principles that merged the best aspects of each species' science. The Genesis's crystal matrix resonated with frequencies derived from human dimensional mathematics, while mechanoid quantum processors coordinated the precise timing. Arcanian biological computers adapted the output in real time, making it impossible to predict or counter. Similar combinations rippled through the fleet, each ship contributing its unique capabilities to a greater whole. The effect was devastating. The entity's ships, designed to analyze and counter specific technologies, found themselves facing something entirely new, not just combined technologies, but true technological synthesis, approaches to physics and energy that had never existed before. Several enemy vessels simply ceased to exist, their matter-energy matrices unable to maintain cohesion against attacks they couldn't comprehend. Others tried to retreat, only to find their dimensional rifts collapse by precisely calculated interference patterns. Status report, Zinra called out, feeling the exhaustion rippling through the neural network as the battle intensity decreased. 6 entity vessels destroyed, 3 retreated, her tactical officer reported. No Allied ships lost, though 3 sustained serious damage. More importantly, he paused, double-checking his readings. We confirmed that they were unable to successfully analyze or adapt to our combined technologies. Elena's presence in the network radiated satisfaction, tinged with concern. This was just a probe, testing our defenses. The entity itself is still coming, and it will learn from this encounter. But we've proved something vital. Our unity isn't just symbolic. Combined, we can create technologies and tactics that even a galaxy-consuming entity can't easily counter. Through the neural link, Zinra felt the pride and determination of every crew member, every species represented in their fleet. Humanity had spent millions of years preparing for this moment, guiding the evolution of countless civilizations. Now, at last, they understood why. It wasn't just about survival. It was about proving that cooperation could overcome any threat, that diversity was strength, and that the combined creativity of multiple species could achieve what none could do alone. As repair crews from multiple species worked seamlessly together to restore damaged vessels, Zinra realized that they had crossed the threshold. They were no longer simply allies sharing technology. They had become something new, something unprecedented in the galaxy's history. The entity was coming to consume civilizations, but it would find instead a unified force that represented the very best aspects of all sapient life. The real war was still to come, but now they knew it could be won. Together. New Dawn. 28 years after humanity's revelation to the galaxy, the entity finally arrived. Not as scattered probe ships testing defenses, but as a vast darkness that blotted out the stars themselves. The combined fleets of the galaxy waited at the designated coordinates, hundreds of thousands of ships representing every spacefaring species, their crews linked through neural networks that had evolved far beyond their original design. Captain Zinra, now Admiral of the Combined Defense Force, stood on the bridge of the Transcendence, a vessel that embodied everything they had achieved. Its hull was a fusion of Volnar crystal matrices and human dimensional engineering, powered by mechanoid quantum cores, and guided by Arcanian biological computers. Like the Alliance itself, it was greater than the sum of its parts. Entity emergence in 5 minutes, Alina Chen announced through the neural network. Now the supreme commander of Earth's forces, she had aged little in the decades since their first meeting, one of many human technologies now shared with their allies. All ships, final systems check, Zinra ordered. Through the network, she felt the readiness of countless crews, their minds working in harmony despite their vast biological and technological differences. Initiate protocol synthesis. Across the fleet, new technologies activated, systems that had been impossible before their civilizations united. Crystal matrices channeled dimensional energies through biological quantum states, creating effects that defied traditional physics. Ships moved in formations that utilized principles from a dozen different scientific traditions, each enhancing the others. The void between stars darkened further as the entity emerged from hyperspace. Its main form was incomprehensible, a mass of twisted space-time that seemed to consume light itself. Around it, countless smaller vessels moved like antibodies attacking an infection, each one capable of destroying an unprepared civilization. Remember, Alina's voice carried to every crew member. It expects to find divided species it can consume one by one. Show it what true unity looks like. The entities struck first, launching waves of energy that corrupted both space and time. But the defense they had prepared was unlike anything it had encountered in its consumption of 27 galaxies. Each ship in the Allied fleet was shielded by overlapping technologies, protected by principles drawn from multiple species' understanding of physics. Phase 1. Execute, Zinra commanded. The Allied fleet split into predetermined groups, each utilizing different combinations of their unified technology. Human vessels phased between dimensions, their movements guided by Volnar crystalline mathematics. Mechanoid swarms created interference patterns enhanced by Arcanian biological algorithms. Each attack utilized principles from multiple species, making them impossible to predict or counter. The entity's response was devastating but expected. Its ships began to adapt, shifting forms to counter the attacks. But this was exactly what they had prepared for over 3 decades of unified development. Initiate Protocol Omega, Alina ordered. All ships, commence dimensional overlay. This was the culmination of their combined research, technology that merged the fundamental principles of all their civilizations. The fleet began to move in patterns that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously, their attacks combining aspects of physics that the entity had never seen used together. Zinra felt the strain through the neural network as crews pushed their hybrid systems to the limit. The entity's smaller ships began to fall, unable to adapt to attacks that violated their fundamental understanding of reality. But the entity's main body pressed forward, its darkness consuming everything in its path. Final phase, Alina announced. Show it why humanity spent 8 million years preparing for this moment. Across the galaxy, hidden installations activated, technology that humanity had spent millennia developing and improving with help from their allies. The fabric of space-time itself began to shift, influenced by principles that combined the scientific understanding of every species in the Alliance. The entity found itself trapped in a bubble of warped reality, created by technology that merged human dimensional engineering with Volnar crystal harmonics, powered by mechanoid quantum matrices, and guided by Arcanian biological computers. It could no longer consume energy or information, could no longer adapt to what it couldn't comprehend. All ships, convergence attack, Zinra ordered. The entire fleet moved as one, their combined technologies creating effects that even their designers couldn't fully explain. The entity's form began to fragment, its darkness pierced by light created through the unified understanding of multiple species. The battle lasted for hours, each moment pushing the limits of their combined technologies. But in the end, the entity, which had consumed 27 galaxies and countless civilizations, found itself unable to overcome the united force it faced. As the last traces of darkness faded from space, Cheers erupted across the neural network in hundreds of different languages. They had faced the greatest threat in known history and emerged victorious, not through the strength of any single species, but through the power of their combined knowledge and determination. "This is only the beginning," Elena's voice carried across the fleet. "We've proved that unity is more than just a noble ideal. It's the key to overcoming any challenge. Humanity spent millions of years watching over this galaxy, not because we wanted to control it, but because we knew this day would come. Now together, we've achieved something unprecedented in the universe's history." Admiral Zinra looked out at the fleet, ships of all designs and origins, crews of all species working in perfect harmony. The boundaries between their civilizations had blurred, creating something entirely new. They had not just survived, they had evolved into something greater. "The question now," Elena continued, "is what we'll do with this unity. The entity is defeated, but the universe is vast and full of unknown challenges. Will we stay united, continue to grow and evolve together?" Through the neural network, the answer came in a chorus of unified thought from every species. They would face whatever came next together, as one united galaxy, ready to protect and nurture new civilizations, just as humanity had once protected them. The dawn of a new era had arrived, born from the unity of all sapient life. And somewhere in the vast darkness between galaxies, the light of their achievement shone like a beacon, promising hope to all who might see it. The end was just another beginning.